Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode I will be discussing Disney's 1953 animated classic Peter Pan, watched again as part of our family film night. The movie is based on a play by Sir James Matthew Barrie and directed by Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson and Hamilton Luske. It's Disney's 14th such animated classic and sees us introduced to the world of Peter Pan and Neverland. The film starts its magical swashbuckling journey in London, where we basically look in on the Darling family, where we meet the three Darling children, Wendy, John and Michael, the mother and father, Mary and George Darling, and Nana, a Saint Bernard who acts basically as the children's maid. When I watched the film, I did find something very familiar about Wendy's voice, and upon investigation, I did find that the voice was that of Catherine Beaumont, who had previously provided the voice for Alice in Disney's 1951 animation, Alice in Wonderland. On the night we joined Mary and George, on the night that we joined them, Mary and George are trying to get ready to go out for an evening, full of the exciting and daring tales of Peter Pan, as told to them by Wendy. John and Michael are playing a daring game of pirates, much to their father's dismay and disapproval. Tired of the tall tales of Peter Pan, Wendy has been telling John and Michael, and following a few bangs and prangs and thuds, all seemingly skewed towards George, the father basically finally loses his temper and basically insists that the nonsense and make-believe has to stop, and commands that Wendy must now grow up and no longer sleep in the nursery with the other children. Poor Nana, who had been trying to keep everything together throughout the fiasco, is removed from the nursery and unceremoniously marched down the stairs, tied up outside, much to the children's dismay. Once the children had settled down in bed, finally ready, the parents then leave for their evening out. Now, what I did find interesting at this point is that the father obviously thought that his children were still behaving in a childish way. However, he did think it was okay and was willing to leave them at home alone at night, even after he then proceeds to put Nana, their only source of protection, outside. So surely he must have thought they were responsible enough not to reduce the house to rubble while he was gone. So okay. Well, that night, the children are then visited by Peter Pan, accompanied by the pixie Tinkerbell, who, after visiting the house secretly on a number of occasions to listen to Wendy's story about himself, had lost his shadow on his last visit after it was captured by Nana. Following a scuffle with his shadow, he inadvertently awakes the Darling children, who are, of course, overexcited to see him. After finding out that tonight's the last night Wendy will be staying in the nursery, and realising that this means basically no more stories, Pan suggests that Wendy go with him to Neverland. Not wanting to leave John and Michael behind, Wendy insists she will only go if Pan takes them along also. With a sprinkling of pixie dust and lots of happy thoughts, so then starts their wondrous journey to the fantasy world of Neverland, up and over a number of London landmarks along the way. No sooner than they get to Neverland than they are attacked by the fearsome pirate Captain Hook, who, following a previous skirmish with Peter Pan, in which Hook had lost his hand to a crocodile, and then was subsequently replaced with a hook, hence the name, was now made it his life's ambition to seek revenge on Pan, much to his crew's dismay. Adventures and frolics ensue thereafter when Pan introduces Wendy, John and Michael to the rest of the characters in Neverland, including the Lost Boys, Pan's faithful cohort, the Mermaids and the Indians, all building up to an inevitable showdown between Pan and Hook. The movie does include quite a number of outdated, cringy stereotypes for me, being of course from the 1950s with regards to women, children, Indians and even men. Some of them are rectified a little throughout the film. For instance, Wendy, at the beginning of the movie, is portrayed as this person who would do the sewing, the cleaning, looking after people, etc. But throughout the film, we do actually get to see that she's quite strong-willed, who isn't afraid to stand up for her beliefs, and even to Captain Hook. Although in the film there is the stereotype portrayed for Wendy as being a potentially mother figure for Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, for me, it is they that come across as juvenile, weak in direction and conviction. And it is in fact Wendy that has to be firm and steadfast in a number of different situations. With regards to men, it's interesting, as Wendy's father, George, starts the movie as a typical 1950s stern, grumpy authority figure. However, at the end of the film, and even by his wife's own admission, he softens and reverses all his punishments, including, to everyone's excitement, the reinstatement of Nana. You do get the sense that although it can be a heated household at times, there is a love and a bond between all of its members. However, the portrayal of the Indians in the movie is not good, to say the least. While softened by the fact that we do learn that they often play intentional and consensual war games with the Lost Boys, sometimes they win, sometimes the Lost Boys win. There is a point when the group are singing, which had me cringing a little in the way that it stereotyped Indians and made inappropriate insinuations as to why they were indeed red. I didn't get the sense that there was malicious intent on the creator's behalf, just ignorance. Interestingly, the film actually has a sequel, Return to Neverland, released in 2002, which basically the Indians don't appear. So at least it would seem at least one lesson learned. Moving on, when I think about it, the film is actually quite dark and contains some quite sinister moments for an animated film for kids. Wendy could have actually died on at least twice, I think, 2 separate occasions, at the actual hands of other characters in the movie as a direct consequence of their actions, and not just simply as part of the action. Pan at some point had actually cut off Hook's hand and fed it to a crocodile. Quite macabre. For me, the best villain of the movie wasn't actually Captain Hook, but in fact Tinkerbell. I'd actually forgotten prior to rewatching the film just how quite evil and devious she actually comes across, being one of the characters that actually willingly and unremorsefully, I must say, wishes to cause Wendy harm. Basically owning to a dislike that Peter seems to take more of an interest in Wendy than Tinkerbell. It's actually Tinkerbell's discord with Wendy that catalyses the build-up to the showdown between Pan and Hook. Captain Hook, by comparison, along with his first mate Smee, provide much of the movie's comic relief. However, for the most part, the film is quite fun and very enjoyable, and it's an easy watch. The music is a mix of character sing-alongs, most of which are short and sweet, and more incidental songs played over the scenes in order to convey the particular feeling of the moment or add to the storytelling overall. These, in fact, are some of the ones that are more recognisable. At its heart, the film is about coming of age, growing up, and having to accept responsibilities. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks for watching. If you do like my movie reviews and general movie discussions and other assorted episodes that we're now putting out on the channel, then please do hit that subscribe button. Please do leave a like on this episode and any other that you see fit. If you have any comments, leave them too. Also, if you've got any ideas for any upcoming SciFirst MovieTalk episodes and films you'd like me to watch, please comment on that too. So, thank you for watching. Goodbye.